Hark the bardic paladin, who sings and plays again. He tells the tales of glory and weaves a magic story. He'll join you at your table and ask you to share a fable. Heroes of humble origin, villains who must be fought again. No matter their skill or prowess, the people in life are countless. So we pray you heed our request. Enjoy this tale of sidekicks and side quests.
Episode 126, Aravind the Thri-Kreen Astrologer. Welcome to Sidekicks and Side Quests, the Dungeons & Dragons podcast that helps to put humans back into humanity and breathe life into your campaign NPCs with backstory and bravado. That's right, we're building a world, one character at a time. I am your host, Kurt Krenwelge, the Bardic Paladin, and I'll be joining KP of KP11 Studios, his table at the Levitating Platter. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests, the best unofficial Dungeons & Dragons podcast, in my humbly biased opinion. I've got a wonderful, amazing guest for you this week, but before we get to my guest, I have to leave you in suspense with the ad read. This episode is brought to you by Plus One EXP and their brand new RPG Zine Club. Zine Club is a monthly membership subscription service featuring fresh zines from emerging and expanding creators across the globe. It's our way of inviting GMs, players, and zine lovers everywhere to invest more intentionally in the creative community. It's crowdsourced support without crowdfunding. So this service offers monthly releases that they put out in two 20 to 44 page saddle stitch zines. 3 different flavors. Take your pick from story zines, adventure zines, and all of the zines. You can pick your format of print and digital, or just get digital only for your favorite titles. Join the Clubhouse Discord section of the Plus One EXP community on Discord. Get the best prices guaranteed from your subscription that you're going to get each month. You get a private subscription portal where you can manage your subscription, add products, or change your information. Change your frequency monthly, every other month, something else. You pick how often you want these new titles to arrive. You only get what you want. And if you miss a month, why, you can always go back and add a title to your recent month's order. Get an annual surprise each February after your first anniversary. Get access to special content with interviews, how to play videos, special content for Zine Club titles. Get a free pizza if you fill out one of the RPG Zine Club passports, or redeem it for a free pizza at events where Tony is present himself. You're going to get access to new and known designers, the best voices from across the RPG design community. And know that Plus One EXP and RPG Zine Club curate their zines based on community interest and feedback to help you discover your new favorite creators. There's a DIE focus because Plus One is committed to championing diversity, inclusion, and equity in their projects. Creators with diverse experiences make our community better. So Zine Club prioritizes creating equity for all of our creators. And it's more than a purchase. Your subscriptions will let us invest more heavily in our print partners and provide them with potentially life-changing support by consolidating scores or hundreds of purchases as the club grows. So, if you want to learn more, I would recommend that you go to the website rpgzine.club. Again, rpgzine.club. And if you want, go to plusoneexp.com. And when you're buying stuff on that site, beard balms or lip balms or beard RPGs or whatnot, and you need a discount code at checkout, be sure to use the code Randolph, RANDOLPH, at checkout and get some savings on your purchase at no extra cost to you. Again, website is plusoneexp.com, and the Zine Club website is rpgzine.club. All right. Well, without further ado, I turn the microphone over to my guest and I ask, hello, who is it that you are and what is it that you do?
Hello, everybody. My name is KP. I go by KP11 Studios on all the socials. I run KP11 Studios. I am a photographer, voice actor, cultural consultant, performer, and writer. I do the best I can in all of those things, and hopefully, it's good enough in each of them.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, you had a really fantastic like Gilmore cosplay. Like you got your start kind of like in the critter fandom, is that right? That's how most of us in the community kind of know you from your origin story.
I would say like that was kind of the. I mean, I was a photographer well before then. I've been doing it for 12 years now, but the one that kind of blew up and kind of put my name on the map was Critical Role. It's including as a cosplayer, doing Sean Gilmore from the first campaign, as well as doing just photo shoots with other fantastic cosplayers, doing various characters from the show. I think those all kind of hit it off, and it people started noticing, and it's been a wild ride since.
Yes, and I am always one to plug my good buddy Andrew Strother and
Oh,
his podcast Roll for Persuasion. Did a fantastic interview with you, so I know you were able to do like a way more in depth. Like your, if I recall from the episode myself, it was like you had like Navy experience and you were doing all this back and forth, and then you're like, bam, you're right here in the middle of the D&D sphere doing what you do.
yep, exactly it. Started out in the Navy straight out of high school, got out, did a bunch of jobs since I, as a software engineer, database administrator, system admin, a lot of just your typical tech jobs, and then along the way picked up photography, fell in love with it, picked up all my other things as I started doing each one a little bit at a time. I'm like, oh, I like this. Oh, I like voice acting. Oh, I like performing on actual plays or just being a performer in general. And it's just it's the fun thing about life. You just don't know where things are going to go. You won't know what you actually are into until you try it, and then when you do, you don't want to let go.
Yeah, and I've been, watching your social medias. You've got like you've been doing a lot even so far. You're like going to cons and you're like doing, you mentioned actual plays. That's something that you're doing more. Is there anything that at the time of this recording that you can tease out that we should be looking forward to? Or do we just need to be glued to your socials so then we can know when those projects drop?
Oh man, I mean, I don't mind at all giving a little bit of a teaser. Actually, a couple of them are either probably already dropped or about to drop as of right now. So already one that's an ongoing one is called Legacy of Worlds on Six Sides of Gaming. It is a show that takes luminaries from the D&D community that we know, people who have helped shape it from the early on stages. You have folks like Ed Greenwood, who is one of the original creators of the Forgotten Realms. You have Luke Gygax, son of Gary Gygax. Elisa Teague, who's a fantastic writer and has contributed to so many world building, and then Keith Baker, who is the creator of Eberron. So all these
Mm,
luminaries, and the entire premise is, well, what happens if like major characters from each of these worlds somehow met and now are like it's a big old Avengers style team up, and now they're going out there trying to fight off some world-ending, actually multiverse planescape ending threat, right?
right.
And then in that process, I was lucky enough to be the photographer, marketing, one of the marketing folks on it, as well as a player on it, a guest player for several of the episodes. So I'm very excited about that. That was a lot of fun. And then again, with Six Sides of Gaming, we did a Shadowrun game that'll be airing on April 22nd,
Mm.
and it's a lot of fun. I really, really, and it was my first time playing properly, playing a Shadowrun game, and especially an entire campaign. And if you love Cyberpunk, if you love Shadowrun, that's a great game. It's one of my favorites simply because I love the character I played. He's a big old goofball. And nothing like any of the other characters I've ever played in my life. So I had a blast being him. So if nothing else, do check that out to just see me laughing a lot. And then finally, we have one that's not been announced yet, but you can follow it It's on all platforms. It's Roll for Initiative. It is a charity game, a charity campaign that we started, and it will be for the Doctors Without Borders. And I must say that production is one that you should not miss. It's probably the
Mm.
most ambitious show I've been a part of. The set design, the amount of talent that went into making it. I will say, unless something changes in the meantime, I think there's going to be a lot of firsts in this industry that you will see on that show.
Very exciting to hear. Yeah. And I think that's a perfect segue then for the next question here that we do at the top in the personal interview section, which you've already alluded to. But do you currently or have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons before?
I have, although funny enough, I'm comparatively new to the space, to the industry, to the hobby. I started end of 2018, so I guess wow, it's actually been, it'll be end of this year, it'll be 6 years, which I guess I can't really say anymore is new. In my head, it feels like it's just still comparatively, other people have been in it for like 10, 15 years since their childhood. I didn't get into it until in my late 20s. And it's just been a blast. I'm glad I did it. I regret not doing it sooner.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. For me, my start was Halloween night 2010 in
Ugh.
my West Texas college town. So I know, yeah, I just came up on the 13th anniversary just this past
Ooh.
October. So yeah, with 4E, I started in the 4E days before making the switch. So
I've only ever played 5e. I kind of want to play some of the earlier editions just to try it out. I feel like I'm missing out a little bit if I don't.
yeah, no, plenty of good games out there and lots of lessons to learn for sure from them. You know, it's kind of like an archaeological sort of thing where you can be like playing 4E and be like, oh, I understand. So this is like how it factored into 5E, but this is like
Yeah,
in its original proto state, as it were, or whatever. So
absolutely. Yeah. I know a lot of people vouch for third edition a lot too. So
yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I don't have any experience with any of the earliest editions. But yeah, a little bit of Pathfinder. Yeah, then like 4E, 5E. Very time appropriate at the time of this episode recording. The Fallout show just came out on Amazon Prime, and my wife and I finished binging that. I'm a huge fan of the franchise. Love the show, and I know obviously Modifius put out the Fallout
mhm.
RPG. So I would love, I know April Hill, the community manager for Modifius, is also in our likewise DFW area. So it would be amazing.
Really?
Yes, she is. And
Oh,
she's
that's
always
amazing.
looking to put games together up here in the north of Texas. And so maybe it's something we can work out. We can finally get our chance to play the Fallout role playing game or something like that. That'd be
That would
very
be,
cool.
oh, man, that'd be amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I love the Fallout universe. I know personally I know one of my friends, Dot, goes by Little Red Dot, was one of the contributors. I think she did almost like 10,000 words for that RPG. So I'm very
Wow.
excited to play it. And knowing her talent, I know for a fact it will be fantastic. So
Well, there we go. Speaking of characters, this podcast is called Sidekicks and Side Quests. So we like to ask the question here: who happens to be your favorite NPC or sidekick character, whether they be from, an RPG, video game, movie, film, television, etc.? And why is this character your favorite NPC, your favorite sidekick?
I mean, that's such a great question, and it's one of the ones I've been thinking about, and it's so hard to figure out. I don't know. It's always fun to think about, okay, do you pick a favorite based off of how useful they are? Do you pick one on how memorable they are? What is the case, right? I would say my favorite psychic, simply because I think he's hilarious and it's such a troll move, would probably be the fan from Elder Scrolls Oblivion, the guy that
Mm.
by Azora, by Azora, by Azora. Like, I'm probably butchering the line, but like the Azura, I think by Azura, not Azora. Elder Scrolls people, if you're a fan, please don't go after me. I'm doing my best. But I just think he's hilarious. I think it's such a funny little thing where it's completely inconsequential. He doesn't really do anything else except follow you around and kind of annoy you a little bit. But having such a character is fun. I think in terms of most memorable or most impactful character for me, though, would probably be um, I want to say, shoot, I'm blanking his name all of a sudden. ADHD just was like, haha, dump it all. The Morden from Mass Effect.
Oh, yes, Morden, the Solarian.
Yeah, the Solarian. That's what I thought. Okay. Oh man, my brain also is a little bit mixing up terms from the Three Body Problem that I just watched, the TV show Three Body Problem. They have Trisolarians in there, and so my brain was like, it can't be Solarian. He's not a Solarian because that's Trisolarian. That's from this. Anyways, sorry, I ran. But I just loved his arc, and as you get to know him better, I think it's just such a impactful moment on how his story goes, especially all the way through Mass Effect 3. And I think games like Mass Effect 3, where you invest into your team and take the time to learn more about them, really helps in connecting with them. And so those sort of characters tend to be the ones, anyways, that I enjoy a lot. But I think Morden from Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect series is probably one of my favorite too.
Indeed, a very solid pick. And then we examine the other side of the coin. What happens to be your favorite side quest or favorite B plot element? Again, whether it's RPG, it's movie, film, television, stage production. I know here being in, DFW, North Texas, I was checking it out. I'm just sharing this tangent because I was like, oh, the Grandscape over in the Colony. They've got a really cool, awesome movie theater I've never been to, and I pulled up, and it was so many movies and like Telugu and like all these other Desi languages. I was like, I don't like this. Probably sounds like a cool movie theater that KP would love to go to. I would need his help. I mean, I would have to read the subtitles the whole time if it's subbed, or if it's dubbed, then I'm just going to be for the ride, or whatever it is. But yeah, anyway, what's your favorite B plot element or side quest, and why?
Okay. I've been racking my brain around this, and then I thank you for opening it up, because I think I thought that would make it more difficult, but I think actually that made it easier because it's such a unique experience. Any of the crap, they just opened one of them here. The really trippy museum out in Grapevine.
Meow Wolf?
Meow Wolf, thank you. Yes.
Yes, my wife and my nieces and my mother-in-law all went to that, and they were like, it's a thing, and it's very fun. It was like, I'll take your word for it. Yeah.
I have not gone to the one here in Grapevine. I've been to the one in Denver. I believe each one is a unique setting and experience. So it's not like if you go to one, you've been to all. Each one is on its own, as unique and trippy as it is. Mm-hmm. But the one I went in Denver for, it's one of those things you go in the morning and you don't get out until end of the night if you want to do like 100% completion of it. Mm-hmm. And there's so many interesting side quests, interesting little things you can find. I don't want to spoil anything, but if ever you guys have an opportunity to go to one of the Meow Wolf exhibits, I think there's one in Denver, one here in Grapevine, one in Las Vegas, and I want to say a fourth one somewhere. I want to say like close to LA. No, maybe not LA. I know there's
one that'll be opening up in Houston, I'm told. So our buddy Andrew Strother will maybe be able to go check that one out, or I'll get dragged down to Houston and we'll go check it out.
That would be amazing. Maybe we could do a whole trip about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that one has probably been one of the most coolest experiences in my life. Obviously, and I'm just a big sucker for world building and storytelling of any sort, especially when that becomes a tangible thing. So things like that, or LARP. I've been to only one LARP, but it was such an impactful experience. It's called Twin Peak out in the LA area. So just those scenarios where you kind of meander around and you don't have to follow a linear storyline. It's not railroading you anywhere. Mm-hmm. And then as you wander, you start picking up things, and then before you know it, you're like, how the hell did I get here? Like what what happened? And it's the wonder of it, I think, is something that I enjoy. So moments like that, anything like that. It's also kind of why I really love open world RPGs or RPGs that allow you impactful choices that matter, that then take you on a journey depending on which choices you make. Hence why I love Mass Effect or any of those type of series and things like that. So,
Well, I have to ask, since I brought it up, but have you finished or watched all of the Fallout episodes?
I have not. I've just finished episode 2 today, so
Okay.
uh, I'm taking it slow. I've on top of trying to juggle everything, I also wanted to kind of have that old school experience of having the time to digest each episode, giving it time to really sink in before jumping into the next one.
I see. Then
I
I don't think that this line that I want to quote from one of the episodes, I don't think it happens in episode 2. It must be like 3 or 4. But
it's
suffice it to say that, the show follows Lucy, our vault dweller hero. And then we already know that Walter Goggins plays a character called the Ghoul.
Mhm.
And so they basically at one point express different viewpoints. When she has the optimistic, like, oh, the golden rule kind of a thing. And
Exactly.
then he says the golden rule of the wasteland. And basically the way the quote means is like kind of a tongue-in-cheek nod, like you were saying about side quests, like in Mass Effect. Fallout franchise is the perfect example of like,
Right.
basically the golden rule of the wasteland is like, you're going to get dragged off on all these side quests, whether you like it or not. Like the world is just going to happen and you're going to get diverted. Like, oh, I have this mission I have to do. It's like, and then unless you're focused on that, the wasteland is obviously going to pull you in a different direction and you're going to get wound
Exactly.
up in something else kind of a thing. So you have something to look forward to. You'll know, like, that's the line he was referencing. But yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree about the side quests and getting lost in the world it's what makes the world the world.
Exactly.
And then the final question that we ask in the personal interview section, what are you passionate about and why?
Man, that's such a tough question. I mean, I think the obvious answer is probably photography. It's what got me into all of this. It's what is my passion, my joy. It's my first creative venture outside of anything else. It's also my longest running creative venture. So it just, I think, is the basis for everything. And then through photography, it has given me the immense pleasure of connecting with so many folks across so many different fields, learning more about them, learning more about what they do, and then through that, finding new passions, new things that I'm interested in. I mean, as we talked about before, photography is the reason I got into, Dungeons and Dragons. It's why I got into a lot of these other fantasy and geeky hobbies. So if I didn't have that, I don't think I would have gotten. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm never going to say I don't think I would be here. I think the route would have been a lot more different, and also maybe have taken a lot longer, if at all. So I think my greatest passion is that it is photography. But I think ultimately above that, it probably is just any form of storytelling. I love telling stories. I love facilitating them for other people, and I think that is what photography serves for me. Is that it helps fill that hole of storytelling, so that when I get to meet clients or meet people that I do photo shoots with, I'm telling their story. I'm working with them to help identify how they want to be presented, who they are on film, and I think that is very endearing to me, and it's something that taps into for me. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm just being reminded of all the various creative and artistic expressions that you've endeavored. Say what you will about the X Twitter platform, but I think I remember you having a very viral like chai thread that you did way back when that everyone loved you for. And what I also found fascinating, you shared about Indian mythology, Hindu culture, about the story of the giant. Well, in D&D terms, we'd say like a rock, but it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
statue of the giant eagle that's like overturned on the ground. And you did like this whole breakdown of like explaining like, well, this is what it is through through the story and the myth and the legend and all this. And so I was like, that's really cool and fascinating. Even your episode that you did with the Kill Every Monster podcast, where you educated everyone on the proper way to pronounce it, Rakshasa, and then explained, how those all factor into the culture and the myths and what have you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh, you really looked into everything.
I just consume a lot of media.
Thank you. I mean, I think the other reason I love becoming a creative, especially through TTRPG actual plays and stuff like that, it really helped me reconnect with a lot of my own culture. And once again, it taps into a form of storytelling that I had kind of been ignoring for most of my life, being an immigrant. I moved here when I was 8 years old, and growing up in America, especially in Portland, where I think I had in my entire school of a total of maybe 6 or 7 other Indians there. And so not a lot of opportunities to connect with my culture. And when you're in that kind of a scenario, especially when other people don't understand your culture or have certain stereotypes or bigoted views, it kind of makes you want to eschew it and not really want to be associated with it, because you're like, I don't want to be othered. So most of my life, I kind of set it aside and be like, no, I'm American, I'm Western, I don't want to talk about it, it's not me, sort of a thing. And so I'm glad that I'm able to go through this journey and then reconnect back to it and use this as an opportunity, as not only educating other people about it, but educating myself, because I'm reconnecting with all of this, because I'm like, as they say, by teaching is the best way to learn yourself. And that re-sparked that joy in me in wanting to connect with my culture. So it's one of the reasons why I think storytelling, and more specifically in this scenario, TTRPGs have been so important to me.
There we go. I mean, we could spend all day just in the personal interview section, just getting to know each other. You could watch our friendship blossom. But we have talked one time before, again, on our aforementioned Andrew Strother's anniversary stream, where, if I recall, Ed Greenwood, you and I all talking about rubbing bananas in our hairs to make the follicles grow better and stuff like that. And we just had a great time on that. But now, hopefully that that's being rekindled here, but not forcing anything, obviously. And without further ado, I think it's time we head into some NPC creation. And NPC creation is brought to you by you, the podcast audience, and our patrons from Patreon. So now is the time in the show where we give a loud hurrah, a loud huzzah to our Patreon supporters. So I like to raise a toast, a glass, a can of Mountain Dew soda to our queen of the Patreon, Goblin Katie, aka Katie Downey, as well as our other wealthy level patrons, including Anson Jablinski, Nicholas Cardarelli, and Mom and Dad. We say cheers. Thank you so much for the support. Again, all these people meet the threshold just by merely donating $2 a month. They donate more, but for just $2 a month, they get a loud hurrah. And all these fine people get to introduce an element of chance to our random tables, which we might get to use here today. So if you want to learn more about the Patreon, you should go to the show notes below. You should go to the podcast website, or just go directly to patreon.com/sidekicks and side quests, all spelled out, and learn about our accommodations that we have awaiting for you. Help us to expand and grow our operations of the levitating platter in this demiplane and worlds beyond. So there we go. The banter for that done. So now is the part where we get to make up a character. So the question here for us now is, what kind of NPC are we making? Are we going to use my random tables? We're going to roll some dice and randomly generate one. Do you have like a preconceived idea that you would like to share? Or is it going to be a combo of both? Or what are you thinking?
If you don't mind, I'd love to have a combo of both, because it's one of those things where it's such a personal journey that to figure out a character. Any guidance would be very helpful to get started, I'd say.
Sure. Okay. So what is the skeletal framework that we're working with?
So one thing about me, and maybe you picked it up in our conversation or what I do. But the big thing for me is that anytime I create a character, I do my best to base it off of like my culture in some way.
Okay.
Because once again, going back to using this as a platform, as a tool to reconnect with where I come from, and also as a way to showcase the plentiful sources of inspiration one can have if they kind of look for it outside of the your general D&D fantasy setting sort of a thing. So I would say that would probably be the biggest thing. But before we get to that, I think it will be a matter of like perhaps using the random table generator to kind of at least have a baseline, and then I can jump from there.
Okay, cool. So you have an idea. So we're going to be using your culture, this wellspring that you have to draw from. But we're going to use random dice rolls to help us kind of focus, how this character is going to emerge.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So then the first thing that we need to figure out for this character is what is their name. So if you need to generate that randomly, we have a D20 roll that we can do, or if you already know what you're thinking.
I think for a name, how about Aravind? Aravind.
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 Aravind. Aravind.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Aravind. All right. Very cool. I always like to make sure I spell it out because this is a podcast, so we don't always have videos and stuff like that to help us out. So, all right. And then let's see. The next thing we get to figure out is what is the ancestry of this character. So this could be, if you roll a D100 or two D10s, we could get something wildly unexpected. Yeah. Or, you have an idea, let us know.
No, let's do that. That sounds fantastic to me.
Okay. And what did we get with a D100?
I'm still trying to. I'm so sorry. I thought you were going to roll.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, unless you want me to roll the dice, but I always leave it to the guests. People love rolling dice, so I would never deprive someone of rolling dice.
So let me see. A 3 and an 8.
So 38. Oh, okay. Well, according to this, it would be a Thri-Kreen or a Crowl, which I guess is like the Ravnica version of a Thri-Kreen.
I don't know what either of those are. I've never played that race before or that ancestry before.
Yeah, sure. The Thri-Kreen also originated in Eberron, I believe, and then were brought in 5e through the Spelljammer. They were in the Monster Manual, and then when Spelljammer came out, the Thri-Kreen were introduced as a playable character option. So they are the like mantis bug people.
Ooh, cool. And what was the other name for it?
I did this whole comprehensive thing where I went through the books and I was like, okay, every conceivable humanoid or monster or something like that has the ability to speak a language and conceivably interact with people should be on this table. So in the Ravnica books that came out, I think there's a variant of a Thri-Kreen called a Crowl, Kraul. So either option. Or if you don't like this, you're more than welcome to roll another D100 if you want.
That sounds fantastic. I think that's super cool.
Okay, so Aravind the Thri-Kreen, unless you want to go with the Crowl variant.
No, let's do How do you spell Thri-Kreen?
Thri-Kreen, Thri, and then a hyphen, Kreen.
Okay.
All right. So Aravind the Thri-Kreen. All right. And now the next thing we need to figure out, what is the job or role in society that Aravind would have? If you want to roll for that randomly, it will be just a singular D10, unless you already know.
I think, and this is not related to like a class, is it? This is just
like a job or role in society that conceivably any NPC would have.
Got it. Oh, fantastic. So then in that case, I think considering when I think of like praying mantis style, everybody thinks of them like very wise looking, very because they're all praying and everything. So I can imagine them being some sort of like either an astrologer or like keeper of scrolls, keeper of knowledge of some sort. So I like the idea of astrologer, especially like I can imagine a creature inspired by a bug would have one of those multi, what are they called?
Yeah, the multifaceted eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think it would be super cool to think of it like as if though he's constantly monitoring the the heavens through multiple telescopes, each one looking at a different part of his segmented eyes. I think that'd be super cool.
Okay. Okay, astrologer. There we go. Yeah, that's very cool. Okay. And then let's see. Then the next thing we roll for, how old is this character? You can generate that randomly if you roll a d8 or if
Ooh.
you just have an idea of how old you think this character should be.
What's the typical age limit of a Thri-Kreen?
Well, the beauty with this podcast is they're as old as they need to be. So the D8 kind of helps us cover the ranges from child all the way up to immortal, basically. If you want to roll randomly to figure out that jumping point for them.
No, I think I want to make him a little bit on the older side, to some like a wise old man sort of situation who's been monitoring the heavens, the stars, celestial bodies for most of his life, and it's been his passion. And if if a player were to meet him, he would just be this excited old man trying to explain the cosmos. So
Okay, so
maybe
we're thinking like an elder, like a proper elder.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So, as we've now kind of solidified some of these ideas, so when we think Aravind, Thri-Kreen Astrologer, who's an elder, can you
Yeah.
describe the physical appearance of Aravind?
So one thing I can imagine him having is that I would imagine him physically, he's a very deep, rich emerald green in color in terms of his physical, like carapace, I guess for him would it be?
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that Aravind in Sanskrit means beautiful eyes, one who has beautiful eyes. So I can imagine his eyes being very jewel-like, very
Whoa.
sparkly and beautiful, something that the rest of his ancestry would be very admiring of, think it's beautiful. And so I think that would be his like physical aspect. And because he's of an older nature, his like the rest of his body, he's kind of getting on in his age. He's a little more hunched over. Maybe his carapace isn't as vibrant as it once was. Like maybe in his youth, it was very vibrant. He was quite the handsome Thri-Kreen when he was youthful, but now it's kind of getting on in his age. But still, it has a very very verdant sheen to it. But the thing about him is that on top of that, to match with that green hue, he wears a kurta that is of deep maroon coloring with gold embroidery on top, paired with like a simple dhoti. A dhoti is like a white or cotton cloth that you can wrap around, almost like pant-like in nature. You just take it and as long as you know how to fold it, you can make it into almost like a pant-like in nature. Yeah, I think that's him. That would be him. His He's
Interesting.
learned how to build his contraptions that uses now, I mean, I'm assuming they don't have opposable thumbs. So being able to operate all
They do
machinery,
have
all of his
4 arms.
Oh, they do have 4 arms. Okay. I should see how they look like. Hold up. Oh, they have multiple limbs. Got it. Yeah. I could imagine him like that too. Like looking through multiple, as he operates different, like at least 4 different telescopes at a time. But yeah, I would say
He's using the arms to adjust them and bring them up to his eyes so he can see them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. And I, the stated lore says like, oh, in the Ebron, they're like, oh, they're from the deserts. And now with Spelljammer stuff, it's like, oh, they exist in the Astral Sea and they live in wild space or wherever they may be. So do we imagine him like more in like a desert sort of setting, like in the mundane mortal world of like everyone else? or is he like one of these spelljammer, like I'm on like an asteroid and I'm like watching all the other things going on in the cosmos?
I would imagine the first opportunity he could have gotten to leave the desert. I mean, I could see he may have originated from there, like as a young a young bug looking up into the skies, and being a desert, I would imagine he had a great view of the cosmos from there, right? And to that's probably where the spark came to be an astrologist. And then the first opportunity he got to be in the planar world and be able to observe it up close, or at least closer than he would have in a much more expanded view. I think that would be what he would have ended up being in.
Awesome. And then let's see. Are we able to describe Aravind with 3 adjectives? What 3 adjectives are best going to encapsulate him as a character?
Oh, I love that. I think a little eccentric, wise, and I think joyful. Eccentric, wise, and joyful is the 3 I would describe. A very, very welcoming sort of a chap, but also hard to read sometimes because he's just off on his own little tangents, talking about so many different things. It's like the golden retriever Doug from Up, where he'll just be on one thing and the next thing goes squirrel. Anyways, and so just so many things firing off through his brain that it's hard to keep up.
Okay. All right. And then let's see. Now is the part where I say, and now we get to go back to some dice rolling because we like all of our NPCs to have something cool on them. So, what is going to be a valuable item, piece of lore, a secret, or some ideal or concept that he ascribes to? So, this is a combo where, if you're spitballing, maybe you think of some, but if you want to just randomly generate something, you would roll a D4 for the category and then a D6 for the particular thing.
I think I might have an idea. I think with his nature of being an astrologist and I say astrologist, I feel like that's the wrong word. Astrologist is more on the mystical side. Maybe he does that too. But as an observer of celestial bodies, I can imagine him along his multiple views of the skies. He started possibly creating a star chart that leads somewhere very interesting, that if one were to be able to acquire this chart from him, they might be able to navigate the cosmos to that specific location, either for some sort of a treasure or some divine mysteries of the world that they can find. Especially if, like, I can imagine in a campaign, if there's an overarching story or quest that the characters are on, I think it would be a cool way for them to be able to find a location that will help them on that journey. Either to find some sort of a ancient artifact, or with the nature of the cosmos being what they are, perhaps touch upon godhood, or touch upon seeing a god at some point of some sort, right? So it's something important in that sense through the star chart.
Okay, all right. So the fabled star chart of Aravind. Okay, that's pretty cool. I like that. And then let's see. Then the final bit that we need to add for the character is what is going to be the quest that Aravind is going to send the player characters on, to help him out or to do on his behalf. So if you want to randomly generate this, the last dice roll would be a D12, or if you've already got the idea, let's hear it.
Oh man, I think it'll probably have to do something with his telescopes. It could be that to finish the chart,
Oh,
he
right,
needs
right.
he needs either an upgrade of his existing telescopes, or he's in the process of building out a new one that is most advanced he's ever created, most advanced that has ever been seen in the planar world, in all the worlds. And it's what is needed to kind of find that central crux, that central point of the star chart, and perhaps he will send the players on a quest to either gather some appropriate materials for it, or like the energy source perhaps needed to power it of some sort. I think I can imagine that being the quest to help him complete this project, complete the building of this advanced telescope.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's like, yeah, go find like these power crystals, or like we
Yeah,
need like this really specific kind of glass in order to make the lenses for the telescope or whatever. Yeah, that's pretty
yeah,
cool. Okay.
something along those lines. It could be also like, oh my god, this asteroid is obstructing my view. Figure out a way to move that asteroid out of the way, and it might be like an impossible sounding task, but it'd be a fun one to help. At this point, like maybe the players are, powerful enough to be able to do something about it.
Yeah. They have their own space galleon, and they can just mine the asteroid and break it up
Yeah,
into component materials or something like that.
exactly. But like the adversary is that maybe there is a local tyrant or a some sort of an organization that already either claims to own it or it has been on it. So now you have to kind of either negotiate with them or do something else, perhaps combat, perhaps a bit more aggressive approach, whatever the case might be, to be able to move it, right? So
Okay.
something along those lines to help him being able to complete that star chart, I think would be a fun one.
Okay, okay. So we know, so we're going to endeavor to help Aravind in completing his fabled star chart. So what is going to be the reward when the players are successful? They retrieve the material component, or the asteroid that's obstructing the view, or whatever it may be. They accomplish the task that
Hmm.
Aravind has set before them. What is the reward?
I can see in that scenario, well, once again, I think the star chart itself would be the major reward out of it. I can imagine that some sort of a secret gets revealed to Arvind in that process, that he's like, oh no, this needs to go, this needs to get out. But it's too big of a secret. The only ones I can trust is the group of adventurers that have approached me on this
Mm.
quest. And this is something that will help you along with it, because if you don't do it, something bad will happen. I've discovered something bad that is happening over there. So use the star chart, go over there, figure it out, fix it, kind of a thing.
Okay, yeah. So this is like the big secret reveal of like, the next, now we're entering the end game phase of the
Yeah.
campaign, kind of a thing. Okay. Yeah, and then if you don't, and so then we have to also consider the opposite. What's going to be the consequence of failure or refusing the call to the adventure? So they meet
Mm.
this astrologer, and he's like, "Go deal with this thing," and the players are like, no, we've got more pressing things to deal with. What's going to be the consequence of failure or refusing the call to the adventure?
I think so. As I was thinking more and more about it, like the entire premise of Indian mythology is finding balance, right? It's not about good or evil. It's about finding balance across the universe. And when the balance gets tipped in the wrong way is when divine intervention happens. And I can imagine that perhaps through this, there's what he notices, what he observes has been an imbalance of energies, an imbalance maybe between the solar and lunar energies across the world, perhaps, or some cosmic energy around the world, across the universe.
Mhm.
And if they don't choose to work with him, it'll be a crucial information that they might miss out on, not necessarily leading to failure, but have consequences where things kind of tend to go much worse than it would have normally been. The energy might deteriorate faster, which leads to other civilizations that they would have encountered that might have been a bit more in pristine condition is now either destroyed or derelict, left behind, or just in a more shambled state of some sort. And it
Mm.
kind of just leads more and more into that chaos that's been happening.
Mhm.
And so,
The Reapers are going to show up early.
yeah, exactly, right. You missed out a crucial piece of information, and it'll just make things a little bit harder to get to. At least initially, maybe there's someone else that you can get this information from, but this would have been the
Right.
most apt or appropriate.
It's a way to slowly tick the dials a little more in difficulty.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah. Obviously, you don't want to. If that's how the campaign's going to go, you obviously want to leave multiple areas or chances for the players to be able to figure this out and not, punish them for not figuring it out. But certainly a very cool way to be like, oh, we're just helping this nice Thri-Kreen astrologer who just wants to map the cosmos. Isn't that neat? And then it's like, oh, the harbinger of doom is going to be fast approaching. So it's like we need to rally the forces of good. to
Right.
kind of like make sure that we're okay, kind of a thing.
Exactly.
All right. And then let's see here. We have some optional questions as well. If you feel like you wish to explore Arvind's character a little more, or if you're good,
Mm.
we can head on to the next section.
I love it. I'm down. That sounds fantastic.
What are the goals and motivations of Aravind as a character?
Oh man, I think for him, he's the sort of character that, oh man, I think it's just an acquiring of knowledge. A lot of trying to just unravel the mysteries of the universe for him through his work. Figure out whether he believes in gods or not. I think that's a separate thing. I think for him, it's a matter of if they exist, they are a part of this universe, they operate within it, and therefore there's got to be something about them in how they operate, some set of laws, rules, or behaviors that they operate under. And just him trying to kind of figure that out, how the cosmos affect each other. Like I said, like these energies, this balance of things for him is trying to just learn more about that and how these energies, how these things interact with each other and affect the rest of the universe and those that live in it. Is kind of like almost kind of like researching the Infinity Stones sort of a situation, where if anything happened to them, the universe gets affected, right? So similar to
Right.
him, that like trying to figure that out and figure the nuances of that, I think is his motivation and who he is.
And then how do these goals and motivations affect his general personality?
Man, I think it's just he's so full of knowledge. He just doesn't know. It's like you don't know where to start. So, like I said, he can be very eccentric in that nature, where he's just on. I think he's going to be a very intelligent character. So like his brain is constantly firing off on different threads and following through. And to him, it makes sense. He's like, oh, while I'm having this happen, I'm already like calculating these calculations and figuring out the stars and locations of this and mapping out its orbit here, and so on and so forth, right? So he's on all these multiple threads, and then halfway through, he's like, what did I have for lunch today? Kind of a thing. So like if a player were to meet him, I would play his character as someone who's just so eccentric that it will just be a challenge for the player to try to make him focus and give him information. But if they have the patience to work with him, I think it'd be a lot of fun to kind of figure out that conversation.
And speaking of interactions, how does Aravind normally interact with other people? Is he pretty much the same across the board, or is he going to be nuanced depending on who he's talking with? Like, say, like friends and family versus
Mm.
peers versus enemies and rivals and such.
Oh, absolutely. I think for him, in terms of who he's talking to, I think obviously, I mean, there's going to be a baseline where he's still on this multi-threaded approach. But I think depending on who he talks to, particularly if it's a close family member, he does his best to kind of cater to them. I can imagine him maybe not having a daughter, but like a young child that he watched grow up, and so he's very close to, and to them he's much more focused, kind of like his reprieve away from it all, kind of a thing, you know. I do think that the opportunity to do that for him is a lot less, considering he's isolated himself out on some sort of asteroid in the planerscape of all things. So he doesn't get those opportunities as much anymore, unless someone were to want to come and visit him. As in terms of enemies, I could imagine him having like some sort of a scientific rival or astrological rival, that tries to constantly disprove him, maybe sabotage his work of some sort. So to him, those type of people are probably his enemies that he just gets very vindictive against and tries to figure out how to stop them. Maybe that's also another thing, is to have the players fight
This
off.
other astrologer built a telescope in my field of vision. I need you to destroy it.
Right. Or like he's subpar. He thinks he's good, but he's subpar, and the only way he can prove that he's good is by sabotaging my work. So it can be like a phase 2 after building out the telescope, and like, all right, protect it from this guy. Or hey, maybe he's not all that good. Maybe he is a little bit vindictive. So he could be like, this over here, he's building a similar telescope, go sabotage it, kind of a thing. You know, it really depends on how the DM wants to play him off as. I don't think he's like overall bad. I think he'll just be in those moments, be a little vindictive, if he wants to.
Okay. Is there a particular accent or language that Aravind would speak with? Are there any idiosyncrasies in how he acts or speaks?
Oh, yeah. I think idiosyncrasies wise, he's probably just very fast paced. His speech, manner of speech is typically very quick. Like we were talking about earlier, very similar to Solarian, similar to Morden, very cut and quick. Unless something comes up that allows him to slow down. So his indication of how he's operating and in terms of how excited he is, but most of the time he's very excited. So I think he'll just be like a very fast speaking person. And then halfway through, he'll be switching constantly to different things, some of which just don't have any tangent, at least to what we can think of. You ever have those conversations where at the end of it, you're like, how did we get on this topic? I swear we were talking about spaceships and rocks, and now we're talking about grilled cheese. Where did that connection happen?
I'm the guy that does that. That's me. That you're just describing me of like, oh, I will derail conversations where they think I've derailed it. I'm like, no. It relates because it's all tangential to the original topic that we were discussing.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I think that's kind of who he is in terms of accent. Yeah, I think he would have. I can imagine him having a very thick South Indian style accent, but I don't think you have to. If you ever play him, you have to give him one.
Mm-hmm.
How I would play him so one of the person I'm basing him after is Dr. Shashi Tharoor. He was the Indian president. I forget from when to when, but also he's a scientist, and he was the one who was instrumental in bringing India into the space age. He built one of the first rockets for India, and he's regarded as a very passionate, smart, kind individual, and a lot of Indians look up to him. A lot of scientists look up to him. I think I believe I want to say Denmark or one of the Eastern European countries have a statue for him and dedicated an entire day to him because of his contributions to science. But yeah, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Holy crap. Abdul Kalam. Shashi Tharoor is a politician who's very smart as well, and his manner of speaking is very eloquent. That's where I was going off of that. His manner of speaking is very, very eloquent. And so that's Shashi Tharoor, and he's a historian, versus Abdul Kalam is the Dr. Abdul Kalam is the scientist that I wanted to talk about. And wow, people are going to get mad at me for that sort of, but I'm so sorry. ADHD brain sometimes just does that to me.
Well, speaking of, the inspiration behind Aravind, what impact has Aravind made on the world? How has he shaped his local area?
I think for him, it's just despite his eccentricities, people value his contribution to the scientific community values it. The astrology community probably values it because he's helped navigate. Because I always imagined the planescape to be a very chaotic, very wild sort of a place. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just like one of those things where so many wild things can happen. But I think he kind of, through all of that, helped build out safe navigational routes for people, discovery of these energy sources for others, and helping just understand the universe and our place in it a lot better. I think is his major contributions in that. And perhaps like also theoretical stuff in terms of helping out on rocket technology or interstellar travel, and having contributions in that sense, right? So
Well, now that's interesting because it's like with the assumption with the Spelljammer setting is like, oh, you have these like space galleon ships and they have like these magical helms is what you
yeah,
use to like propel yourself around. But if his star charts and all his engineering kind of brain, since he's building this massive telescope, has he delved into like actual rocketry and trying to figure out like propulsion and stuff like that? You think?
I would imagine so. I would imagine like he might not have directly been involved in the physical aspect of it, but like design, particularly, I would say in terms of harnessing celestial energy or harnessing interstellar energy to help propel and make a more efficient, faster method of travel. I think his goal always is to just map out the universe and make it a safer place for others to be able to explore it, particularly for him to be able to explore it. I'm sure if he gets the opportunity in the future where he can be safely able to go around, he would be constantly on the move. He wouldn't be on a singular asteroid, or maybe the asteroid will be able to take him everywhere.
Oh, he figures out propulsion so he can literally move the asteroid around where it needs to go, and so he can get
Exactly.
like that full 360-degree view of the universe kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Okay. And then let's see the last optional question here. Does Aravind have any current problems that prevents him from being a bigger player on the stage? Is it the fact that he doesn't have the telescope yet? Or he
I
hasn't
think,
figured out how to propulse the asteroid around or whatever we're thinking?
oh man, I think those two potentially could be it. But also, I think he just doesn't care. To
Mm.
him, like his life passion is to be doing what he's already doing. I think the only thing that would propel him into a bigger player is if the players, I mean, if the party comes back to him with what they had discovered on that star chart, that where they went,
Mm.
or if he believes that the players themselves might not be, or whoever he tasked might not be up to par, and himself goes to explore it, right? I can imagine him in the end game sort of scenario where he gives a lot of supporting role to the players if it needs to be a battle situation. I think his control of celestial bodies, control of scientific knowledge, as well as how to control these various energy sources might come in very handy in especially if necessary for combat in some capacity.
Pretty gnarly dude. All right.
Yeah.
And so now is the time, after we've made it through NPC creation, it's time to throw our Aravind into a random encounter. This random encounter is brought to you by my sponsor, Zencastr. Zencastr came into my life when I didn't think I would need it, but now I definitely need it with trying to raise a family and keep the podcast episodes flowing and all that stuff, and not trying to keep myself awake for all hours of the night trying to get these episodes edited. Thanks to Dane and Benjamin over at Dispel Magic showing me this service, I was hooked, and I decided to become a paying member so I could get access to all these awesome tools with editing and getting these great episodes to you. So it is so easy and super easy now to record a podcast with Zencastr. You log into your browser and you start recording a high quality podcast right away. You could record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen, knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. A hard sell. On that point alone, I've been podcasting for a couple of years now. That is amazing. So that is a great selling point of this service. You can sound your best. Have you ever worried what you might sound like on a podcast? With Zencastr's post-production process, it makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes the ums and ahs as you click on that feature in the post-production settings, and in your recordings, it's going to remove those awkward pauses and conversations too with the click of a button. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. It really is that easy. It's all in one. If you have thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are done. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and all other major podcast destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SIDEKQPodcast, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Again, the website, zencastr.com/pricing. Use the code SIDEKQPodcast and get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. Thank you so much to the sponsor, and back to the podcast. So this is the part of the show where we get to do a little bit of a role play, a vignette, a scene. We get to play just the tiniest amount of Dungeons and Dragons here and now. So I think KP has done a wonderful job of building out Aravind. But now the question becomes, what sort of scene are you interested in presenting Aravind in? Is it going to be, as we've alluded to in figuring out the character, is this Aravind having a moment with their loved one? Is it going to be Aravind meeting one of my podcast adventuring characters to be able to give them the side quest? Is it Aravind speaking with this rival astrologer figure?
Ooh, I could
Or is it something else that Aravind could be doing? What kind of scene are you interested in?
I think just meeting a player character or an adventuring party, I think would be fun.
Okay, excellent. So we can do that, and we have a whole list of characters to read off for you. So I will do that now. Your options include Duncan. He's the recklessly brave adventurer for hire, happy-go-lucky, no feet too small, no job too daring kind of a guy. We've got Sonia, who's the warrior woman. Started off as a barbarian, multi-classed into a paladin who serves a god that wishes to redeem the undead. We have Korak, who's the lawful evil arcane trickster roguish dwarf. We have Chrisley, who's the herbalist, botanist, wood elf druid from the Woad, who then multi-classed into a cleric who serves living memory. And then we have Orion, who is the astral elf illusionist wizard, so does come from the Astral Sea. And then we've got Agape, who is the lilac-colored tiefling Sorlock. Started off as a wild magic sorcerer with fae magic in her blood, and then made a pact with an archfey, Prosperina, who's another character we made on this podcast. So those are the characters that have been established thus far, but if none of those characters sound good, we can make up someone new.
I think they all sound fantastic, but I'm open to whichever one you wanted to do.
Oh, it's guest choice. It's whoever you think will play most interestingly against Aravind.
I think either the the one that has the celestial connection.
Okay, Orion.
Orion would be a fun one, or someone who has nothing to do with the scientific mindset or anything to do with like the what was it? What was her name? The warrior.
Oh, Sonia.
Sonia, something along those lines. Who I can imagine her being very like brisk and cutthroat, not cutthroat, but like to the point, get to the point kind of a person. So that'd be a fun interaction to have with Aravind in terms of how he would handle that.
I'm personally leaning towards Orion.
Okay.
Because his character was lost from the Astral Sea. He's been trying to find his way back. So, and he hasn't been heard from in a while in the podcast. So it could be an explanation as to how he's gotten himself to meet Aravind, perhaps.
Yeah.
Where we last left our hero Orion, quite some time ago, he had been chilling in the mundane world. He met a lovely pair of ladies, Nox and Nori, in the desert port town in which Nori was the child who worked at the apothecary, and then her friend Nox, who is this Yeti that was on a deep sea archaeology exchange program. And then there was this whole epic battle and scene with the Dragon Star, with retrieving this meteorite that had crashed into the ocean, and then clearing said dragon that had found the meteor and hoarded it out of the ruins. So then that way Nox could, continue on with the group's exploration of the nearby ruins. Through the course of that adventure, Orion was able to find a critical piece that he needed to be able to figure out how to teleport back to the Astral Sea. And so with the implement in hand, back on dry land, obviously, saying goodbye to his friends Nox and Nori, he activates the arcane device. And when he does, he's instantly transported into the Astral Sea. And of course, the Astral Sea, being this vastness of space, he finds himself floating. And he's floating towards something. what is it that he's floating towards?
A giant asteroid, but one that looks a little bit different. You can see on the asteroid almost like mechanical parts attached to it. It feels like the base is rock. The base was once a pure rock asteroid, but now around it, you see protrusions, like some sort of creature-made protrusions of metal, of technology, of arcane ruins going around. You might even see a strange loop that goes from one end of the asteroid all the way to the other end, similar to like a particle accelerator that is on the center, like going on the largest diameter of the asteroid. And because of that, it's been shaped into almost a perfect sphere. It looks like it's not quite rocky looking anymore. So almost like a planet, but not necessarily. You know that there's no planet of that small size.
Mm-hmm.
And it was clearly carved into that shape. So this is not something that was naturally formed. But yeah, and then amongst them, the big thing on the north and south poles of this, as well as across the various parts of the asteroid, you see large tubes protruding from it, comically large, that look like they're. It's like when you look at a mountain, it looks small, but as you approach, you're like, oh, this is big. Oh, this is giant. And you realize that they are various telescopes in different shapes protruding from this asteroid.
Okay, yeah, and Orion is just kind of spinning a little bit, and he has to adjust himself. And he looks and he sees this asteroid, and his eyes get very wide. He has his astral elf eyes widen, and it's like he has his own little, stars and solar systems that are pictured in his eyes. He will use, he'll pull out his spell book, and he very quickly makes sure that he has fly memorized for the day. And so then he uses it to propel himself forward so he can fly towards this asteroid. He finds a spot where he can comfortably land, and then he begins to look around, and he's through the echoing halls or whatnot. And he's like, "Hello, I mean you no harm. My name is Orion. I need help. Hello."
Yes. Leave the package over there at the door. Just go away.
And Orion will turn to look, and how is he seeing Aravind right now?
You see him hunched over a contraption that is like a panel got removed from this contraption that's ginormous, as he's trying to fix something, and then he'll adjust something and then look through a tube like this, and then I'd go back, adjust something else, and then keep looking, and then just kind of like being frustrated each time as he just adjusts, and clearly it's not focusing or doing what he wants it to do.
Well, pardon me. I do you need some help? An extra set of hands here. If you
have hands, yes. Come here.
He quickly rushes into the room.
And he as he comes close, he immediately reaches out, grabs his hands, and puts him up to his eyes, and his bulbous eyes up top. Once again, very jewel-like, of various jewels. It looks like all shift around, and almost looks like they scanned his eyes his hands across every detail.
That looks still on the small side, but maybe this will do. And then he goes, "All right, quick, go here. Jump over there, and as I turn this dial, I want you to reach down there, and then just turn it a little bit. Just, you see that? What I'm talking about?"
Yes, I see. I see it here.
On 1, on 2, on 3. All right, go.
And he makes the necessary adjustment.
And he looks at it. It did it. That worked. And then he goes, and then you hear a ding. "You just helped made my lunch, young man." And he opens up clearly a microwave, and he's he pulls it out and starts munching away at it.
And then he looks flabbergasted. He's like, "Oh, okay then." That is how long has it been? Because I was on a ship.
I'm
about construct, though. I mean, I don't know, where did you start and where are you going?
Well, I was in the sea, and he says, gesturing to like the wider astral sea. I was on a mission. I was on the sea, and we must have struck a storm, a rift, and I went tumbling to the mundane world, and that's where I've been. So how long has it been to have such technology as this exist?
This is all
gone thousands of years?
Oh, no. There's nothing like this ever anywhere else. This is one of a kind. The good old Aravind original. And he starts just going on a tangent, not like trying to explain the nuances of all this technology that he's created. It's a fusion of arcane ruins, fusion of magic and tech that he's worked on, but clearly very passionate about. Like, as soon as he's like getting to the crux of the matter of one instrument, he just jumps over, like never seems to complete the train of thought there before he jumps over to something else. And this right here, this is crucial. This is fascinating. Like, I can look deep into space through this, into the Astral Sea, and yeah.
Well, he finds a very receptive audience in Orion. I modeled Orion kind of like on a Spock sort of a character. So like he is definitely sort of vibing with this right now. He's happy to be back in his original plane of existence. And he will let him ramble for as long as he wants. And maybe it's hours later before Orion finally gets a word in. And he's just kind of like, thank you so much for that explanation of microwave technology. Very fascinating stuff. But
yes, all of these different energies, just people don't even know about. You just need to harness it. You just need to tap into it, and then you can do wild things like heating your food.
Yes, and then he pulls out his spell book, and he does like, he's kind of like in a more illusionist based wizard. And so he's like, he looks at all of the stuff around him, and he begins to like make these like major images and minor images and all this stuff, like of what he's seeing, to like reproduce it in his hands as like an illusion. And he's like, very fascinating stuff, and very intriguing for sure. And I can't thank you enough for your hospitality, with giving me at least a safe refuge until I can get back to Bastion for sure. But
you're trying to get to Bastion?
Yes, I am. You know, the great city built on the ruins of the dead god.
Yes, I know what it is. I know. Stop. And then he goes.
My apologies.
He jumps into a pile of like scrolls, and like almost like it's comically large. Like he's like almost swimming in it, a la some Scrooge McDuck style. And then finally, no, that's not it. That's not here. And then he tucks a scroll at you.
Oh.
And if you open it up, it's a star chart on how to get from here to Bastion.
Oh my goodness! Are you among the vestige?
The vestiges. I mean,
just in case for his own, I guess he's compelled as sort of like this Spock character to just explain that, like, the vestige are one of the 3 sects that exist, that worship the dead god, that originate from Bastion. And the idea of the vestige is like, they're the ones that are the space explorers. So they go out, and through their religious studies and such, they map out the cosmos and the astral sea. And so they're from Bastion, in their point of view, they're considered the ones that have like these equally as impressive star charts. So he's trying to pay Aravind this great compliment by saying like, he's a member, he must be a member of the vestige of the worshippers of the dead god, because he has such extensive star charts and stuff like that.
No, he just looks like, they're posers. They wish they could be as good.
Oh, and he's definitely more taken aback by that. I wouldn't consider myself a strong worshiper of the dead god, but when you live on the dead god, it's like you kind of like a reflexive thing of like, I would never speak badly of them or anything like that.
Yeah.
But he's happy for this, and he's like, well, you've paid me such a kindness, and in my time of doing adventuring work in the mundane world, I've seen the benefit of returning the favor. And so I feel like I must ask you now, is there something that I can do to help you out with the great kindness that you've paid for me?
Okay, how about this? And then he pulls out a very complex diagram blueprint
Mm-hmm.
that stretches quite a bit. Like it's a giant one. Once again, comically large, right?
Mm-hmm.
Opens it up and it looks so complex. And he kind of just points to a couple like circles, a couple different things. Well, if you come across this little doohickey here and this little doohickey here, if you can figure that out on where I can find one of those things, I think one of them is like the center of a star. Like I really need the nucleus of a star. If you can get me that, that'd be really great. And then like I believe I need a new type of lens that will help me unravel a different spectrum of energy. And you see him like going and shifting between accents as he's speaking.
Mm-hmm.
At one moment he seems like he doesn't have one, and another moment he does have one. It seems like he's trying to figure out what kind of effect he wants to give to the person talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, that's part of his eccentric nature. He just doesn't know. His mind doesn't it can't make up one specific way of doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, if you can find me the center of a dying star, the nucleus of one, that would be great.
Okay, that is a tall order, and I suppose a good thing I'm going back to Bastion, because I should be able to find a ship and a crew, and hopefully this time around I won't get caught in some sort of astral storm and get propelled to another plane of existence, it seems.
Well, that would be wild. Best of luck to you. Now get out.
Okay, and then without much ado, pulling out his spell book, I guess he manages to find his teleportation spell that he has attuned for his humble abode in Bastion. And so he takes, he makes the chalk marks and all that stuff on the ground. And then, he waves by, which I'm sure Arvind by this point has already like ignored him. And he just kind of like disappears, teleports, and now he's back home. And scene. So there we go. We made it through the random encounter. So what did you think getting to be Aravind?
I loved it. I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I've already got ideas for how to stick Aravind in my world, in my campaign. So I can't wait to deploy him. He sounds delightful. I loved the world building that you did with the asteroid, and like it's perfectly spherical. It's got the like the particle accelerator thing around the middle, and all the telescopes that are sticking out of it. It's fascinating.
Thank you. That was so much fun.
Now we are starting to get into the part of the show that's just the final thoughts. So I always like to, check in with the guest. How was your time on the show? Did you enjoy it? Listener feedback, all that sort of stuff. So yeah. What'd you think?
I had a blast, and this was so much fun. Once again, it goes back to my passion and joy of storytelling and world building. So having an opportunity to kind of almost on the fly, but with a structure, be able to build one out. I think it's a great idea, and I hope that it shows to people how not easy necessarily, but how one can come up with things like this. You don't need to be talented, so-called talented, or have a whole bunch of experience. It's just a matter of just sitting down and putting together some fun ideas, and as long as you have the right questions to ask, you can end up with something super, super fun. So yeah, this was absolutely lovely. I loved him.
Yeah.
I'm stealing this character for myself for something else.
Oh yeah, and I was gonna say I totally envision Aravind the Thri-Kreen being like, if you play him younger, I could totally envision him as like an artificer or something like that.
Yeah.
Like he's just building things, and his ultimate goal is he wants to map the universe, and so like that's what is, he has like proficiency in like cartographers tools or astrolabes, like star charts and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, astrolabes and sextants and all the other nautical tools and terms that I'm just pulling out of thin air. But yeah, so as we get to the final moments of the show, yeah, I always like to leave it here to the guests. So I turn over the stage, the microphone, the soapbox, the platform to you. Plug to us. Where can we find you on socials? what do we need to be tuned in about? And then any other passions or causes that we need to be made aware of.
Oh man, I think for me, it's just, keep your passions alive, keep your love for and creative visions alive. I'm on my end just trying to keep pursuing that myself. As I mentioned, just excited for a lot of these fun projects and performances that I've been a part of. So can't wait for folks to see it. If you're interested, do check them out. They're full of talented people. I'm just one of them. And just if you can, go and donate to a just cause. There's a lot of hurt, a lot of pain around the world. So if you can do your part to kind of either, you don't even have to donate, you can just share it, talk about it, let people know about it, so that way others who can and have the funds to support it can. There's so much happening that if we can do something on our part to help, it will be a good thing to do. So yeah, that's all I had.
And you are KP11 Studios across the majority of all social medias?
Yep, that is me.
All right, KP11 Studios. You should be following him if you're not already. Thank you so much, KP, for being a guest, my neighbor. Howdy, howdy. And I can't wait to have you back on to make even more interesting NPCs.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sidekicks and SideQuests. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast through Apple Podcast, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Overcast, or feel free to save the RSS feed to use the app of your choice. If you don't like using podcast apps and services, I'm proud to announce that I'm in the process of uploading the podcast to our very own dedicated YouTube channel, which you can find by searching for Sidekicks and SideQuests. All future episodes should automatically publish to our YouTube channel. Visit our website, sidekicksandsidequests.com, for links, write-ups of the NPCs, and to learn more about the show and the guests who have been on it. To stay up to date and interact via social media, you can follow the podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and the corresponding threads, Twitter, now rebranded X, and Reddit by searching for SideKQ Podcast. You can now also find a very tiny community on Discord as well. I would love to talk D&D and showcase your fan art, stories of how you used our NPCs, discussions, and commentary. If you'd like to hail the bard, simply send me an email at sidekicksandsidequests@gmail.com. To help this show be the resource it's meant to be, I ask that you please leave a review on iTunes, 5 stars if you please, to help spread the word and share our podcast with your friends and family. Whether you're a veteran player or an aspiring dungeon master, there's something here for everyone, and I want to hear about it. As mentioned in the NPC creation section of the show, I do in fact have a Patreon for the podcast. If you love this podcast and you want to help support us and take our show to the next level, I would appreciate it if you would go to patreon.com/sidekicks and sidequests. No matter your lifestyle expenses, we have wonderful rewards at every level of Patreon membership tier. Modest, comfortable, wealthy, and aristocratic accommodations await, and we welcome all patrons to the levitating platter. Seriously, your financial support allows for this passion project to continue to invest in itself through the tools that will take our production to the next level, as well as provide more content for our patrons and the community at large. Please consider supporting me on Patreon if you can.
Sidekicks and SideQuests is unofficial fan content permitted under the fan content policy, meaning I'm not approved or endorsed by Wizards. Portions of the materials used are property of Wizards of the Coast.
Copyright Wizards of the Coast, LLC.
Thank you for your support, and I'll see you at the pub next time.
Bar to rock on 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.